Council, please come to order. Let's join in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mandy, please call the roll.
Armstrong.
Yes.
Randallhurst.
Here.
Butler.
Here.
Hopkins.
Here.
Van Stryland.
Here.
And Carlstone is absent for now, but he'll be joining via phone.
The City Council has adopted a code of civility. As elected officials, we pledge to promote civility through extending respect to others, listening to understand, disagreeing without disrespect, engaging collaboratively, and speaking up to address incivility. This meeting is being recorded and broadcasted for Pella TV. Anyone who speaks to council must approach the podium before speaking so those listening at home can hear your comments and see you on camera. Motion for approval of a tentative agenda.
So moved.
Support. Brander Horst, Van Stryland. Discussion? All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, call the roll.
Randallhurst.
Yes.
Van Stryland.
Yes.
Armstrong.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes. I would like to appoint Calvin Banstra to the South Central Regional Airport Agency Board. If approved, his term would expire at the end of his city council term on December 31, 2029. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support.
Van Stryland, Branderhorst, discussion?
Appreciate you serving on that committee.
Yeah.
All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Van Stryland.
Yes.
Randallhurst.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Armstrong.
Yes.
Motion passed. Public forum. Anyone wishing to address council regarding agenda items, step forward to the microphone, state your name and address, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. All right, moving on. Can I get a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Support.
Van Stryland, Branderhorst, discussion? All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Van Stryland.
Yes.
Randallhurst.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Armstrong.
Yes.
All right, moving on to public hearing regarding budget amendment number 1 for fiscal year 25-26 budget. Mike, please explain.
Yes, council member. For those in attendance and those watching at home on Pella Fiber, I'd like to direct your attention to the board for a brief presentation on this item. As council member Hopkins stated, what this resolution would do would approve budget amendment number 1 for the current fiscal year. So this would be the fiscal year that ends on June 30th of this year. And I want to stress that this amendment, there will be no increases in taxes or rates as a result of this amendment. The primary reason for the amendment is what we're simply doing is removing funds to correspond for capital projects when they're actually occurring. So with this amendment, we typically call this timing differences. We could have projects that were budgeted in fiscal year 25 and actually taking place in 26, or projects that are taking place in 26 that were budgeted in fiscal year 27. And so what we're simply doing is just adjusting for the timing of projects with this amendment. That's the lion's share of the proposed amendment on it. Now overall, I wouldn't get too caught up on this as well. Once again, this is just a timing difference, and not all items in the city budget have been adjusted. But as a result of the amendment, we're showing a slight drawdown in fund balance of just under $600,000 for this. And once again, Council Member Hopkins, I'd like to emphasize that the overall amendment, there'll be no increase in taxes or rates as a result of this amendment. So we are recommending approval this evening.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Mandy, any written comments?
No written comments.
Any comments from council?
Mike, on the spreadsheet you sent us, it says the ending fund balance, June 30th of 2026. Is that a number?
Yes.
As a negative? Is that?
Yeah, it's just important to keep in mind with the finance staff, the reason why this amendment is overall, they're trying to correspond with the state programs. The state budgets funds on a program basis. So the reason why it's just focused on the capital improvements is to adjust timings of the project. So what I would say is that the projects that we're adjusting, The overall decrease in the projects is just right around $600,000 or $591,000 is a drawdown, and that takes into consideration the adjustment to the beginning fund balance as well. So I think when you add the net amendment of $1,459,000 and you also add in the adjustment to the beginning fund balance of right around $800,000, that's where you come up with the net decrease of $591.
Of the capital improvement.
Well, this is the overall city
Overall
budget, but
city.
the primary adjustment is just to adjust for timing on capital improvement projects.
Okay.
Any comments from members of the audience? All right, I get a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Support.
Banstra, Branderhorst, discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Banstra.
Yes.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Dan Stryland.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to resolution number 7084, entitled Resolution Amending the Fiscal Year 2025-26 Annual Budget by Adopting Budget Amendment Number 1. Nothing to add, I assume, Mike?
That is correct.
All right, can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support.
Branderhorst, Van Strylen, discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
Dan Stryland.
Yes.
Banstra.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes. Motion passed. Okay, now it's time to go through the indoor recreation and aquatic center change order summary.
Okay.
Mike?
Be happy to do that, Councilmember Hopkins. And as Councilmember Hopkins has, is we just have a brief update on the Pella Recreation Center. As far as change orders for the project, if you recall, we established a change order committee, and this is an administrative committee that has the authority to approve smaller change orders. Right now, the total amount of our authorization is up to $300,000. We've approved just about $208,000 worth of change orders, smaller change orders, and by definition on the rec centers, change orders under the amount of $20,000. Anything above that comes to council for separate change orders. So overall, when we look at the project, happy to report that the project is within its budget. Early on, when we approved the construction contract, we had a project contingency budget of $900,000. Our administrative committee has approved change orders of just over $208,000 for the project. We have other project change orders in the amount of $214,000, which leaves us with a remaining contingency budget of $477,000. Now, it is important to note for the project, most of the shop drawings have been reviewed by the engineer and the contractor on it. So we'd like to think a lion's share of the change orders are behind us now. We'll see if that holds for the rest of the project. But as a reminder, right now with the rec center, we have a tentative completion date of July of 2027. And so the project is on budget. And I believe we also have an update on the slides and some pictures to share. So Spencer, if you'd like to walk council through the photos for the project.
Yeah, so Spencer Winsby, on North Prairie. Yeah, so these are the glass on the outside, so they've already finished most of the outside work, now they're putting up the glass to match. So really, they're basically taking as a shell, so they can all move inside at this point, which saves them a lot of weather delay options. So they got the roof done, siding done, putting in the windows now, so yeah, they got a bunch of lifts over there trying to finish off the outside, but it's cruising right along. It's amazing. You can walk through. You can even get on the second floor and see like down in the gym area or into the weight room area or even off on that patio deck area off the north side. It's beautiful. So, but yeah, the pool area is coming along well. It's a beautiful project. If ever you all want to go and see it, I'd love to see it with you. You can go without me too. But I did want to show you that they're pretty proud of it out there. Yeah, so that's kind of what you're looking at here. They've got some of the roof here, got some of the HVAC units on top, and but yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. But it's a great project. It's coming along well.
Thanks, Spencer.
Okay.
Maybe not now, but down the future a little bit, it'd be good to have a tour of it.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. If we can set up something, if we get a quorum, we can make it post to be a public meeting or whatever the rules are, Mike knows those format. So, but we can do a group tour and we'd love to do that, so.
Okay. No motions out of that, Mike.
That's
It's just an
correct.
update. All right, moving on to resolution number 7085, entitled Resolution Adopting Health Plan Premiums for Fiscal Year 26-27. Mike, can you please explain?
Yes, council member, I'd actually like to have our Human Resource Director, Mandy Smith, walk council through this item.
Yes, so we talked at policy and planning at the last meeting on June 2nd that this resolution will adopt the health plan premiums for our current two plans that we have for our employees. You can see the increases there on the slide of the co-insurance and co-payment are what we have right now. And then as we discussed at the last meeting, this resolution also adds a high deductible health plan. So employees who do want to have a cost savings in their premium and are okay taking the risk of the higher deductibles and out-of-pocket maximums, you can see they save quite a bit of premium going that route. I will say, after this was discussed at the last meeting, we have a lot of employees that are very excited about that high deductible health plan option, mostly because it allows them to get a health savings account, which is pretty standard in the world of health insurance today. Any questions at all for me?
I know that's a lot of work, so thanks, Mandy. Okay, can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support?
Branderhorst, Van Stryland, discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Randerhorst?
Yes.
Van Strylen?
Yes.
Anstra?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes. Motion passed. Moving on to resolution number 7086, entitled Resolution Adopting Amended Wage Scale and Job Classification Structure. Mike, please explain.
Yes, council member, once again, I'd like to turn the floor over to our Human Resources Director, Mandy Smith, to walk council through this item.
Mike, we did discuss this one as well at the last policy and planning meeting. Council directed staff, we kind of were in between whether we go with a 0.4% market adjustment to the wage scale or a 1%, and we were directed to proceed with a 1% market adjustment. If approved, this adjustment will go into effect on July 1st, and I will send communication out to employees on how that impacts them individually as of tomorrow. The estimated cost of this adjustment totals just over $145,000 for the year.
Okay, thanks, Mandy. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support?
Branderhorst, Van Stryland, discussion. Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Randerhorst?
Yes.
Van Strylen?
Yes.
Anstra?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes. Motion passed. All right, resolution number 7087, entitled Resolution Adopting the Iowa Length of Service Award Program and Designating a Financial Services Provider. Mike, can you please explain?
Yes, council member, I'd like to once again direct everyone's attention to the big board, and what we have this evening is a recruitment tool and recruitment and retention tool for the Pella Fire Department. Recently, under state law, they've adopted a program where we could offer an incentive of retirement contribution for volunteer firefighters. We talked about this during June 2nd, and this is formal consideration of the program that we discussed on June 2nd. Is the same program we talked about on June 2nd, but basically what this allows the city, if the firefighter meets the conditions under the program, the city will contribute up to $500 for each participant annually on it. If you recall, during the FY27 budget, which is the fiscal year that this would be effective with, we have actually budgeted about $15,000 the expected cost of this program as well. So with that, council member, we are recommending approval this evening.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support.
Banstra, Branderhorst, discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Anstra?
Yes.
Randerhorst?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Van Strylen?
Yes.
Motion passed. Resolution number 7088, entitled Resolution Approving the Public Purpose Expenditure Policy for Certain Expenditures. Mike?
Yes, council member, as council recalls, we discussed this policy on June 2nd during policy and planning, and this is also a recommendation from the city auditors as well. And basically what the policy does, it establishes written policies and parameters for meals, gifts, and recognition events for city employees as well. It is important to note that legal counsels reviewed the policy, and we have incorporated their suggestions, and staff is recommending approval this evening.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support.
Van Strylen, Branderhorst, discussion. Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Branderhorst.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Danstra.
Yes.
Motion passed. Resolution number 7089 entitled Resolution Determining the Necessity and Setting Dates of a Consultation and a Public Hearing on a Proposed Imagine More Community Urban Renewal Plan for a Proposed Urban Renewal Area in the City of Pella, State of Iowa. Mike, please explain.
Be happy to. We'll try to summarize that lengthy opening on that as well. The big takeaway when we talk about this proposed urban renewal plan is what we're really doing with this resolution is we're establishing July 7th as the public hearing date for the proposed urban renewal plan. As we discussed, I believe on May 19th of this year with this particular plan, when we talk about urban renewal plans, it's important to keep in mind that these are planning documents that span a number of years. In fact, this one's over the next 20 years as we talk about. So there's lots of projects included in the proposed urban renewal plan. I also want to state when we talk about urban renewal plans, this is the first step in the economic development process for cities. You have to have urban renewal plans before you have economic development or redevelopment areas as well. So with this, you'll once again see a number of projects, including public infrastructure projects included in the plan as well. So let's go ahead, please, Mandy. Now, a little bit of background, and there'll be considerably more discussion on July 7th on this as well, but recently Central College has analyzed their need for future student housing, and they believe a portion of their campus could be developed for private housing on this as well. And so when we look at the Central College campus, it's important to keep in mind that the area of redevelopment is about 35 acres on their campus. And the reason I'm mentioning that is when we talk about the urban renewal plan, it's important to keep in mind that you can't have split parcels on urban renewal plans. You have to take the entire parcel, and the Central College campus is comprised of a relatively small number of parcels that are very large in size as well. But overall, the purpose of this plan is to provide additional housing for the city of Pella as well. So let's go ahead, please, Mandy. This is the proposed urban renewal plan, and as you can see, that's considerably larger than 35 acres, but once again, it's important to keep in mind that you cannot split parcels, so we're forced to take whole parcels, which encompasses a large portion of the Central College campus. But I also want to emphasize with this, prior to adoption, there will be a public hearing and public meetings, which we're simply doing with this resolution. In fact, what we're doing really with this resolution is establishing July 7th is the public hearing date for the proposed urban renewal plan. So with that, Councilmember Hopkins, be more than happy to answer any questions the council may have on this item.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, discussion? Should say Branderhorst, Banstra, discussion? Looks like a pretty interesting project. I'm excited to learn a little more about it. Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Branderhorst.
Yes.
Danstra.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to resolution number 7090 entitled A Resolution Approving First Amendment to the Donation and Construction Agreement between Spirit of Pella and the City of Pella regarding installation of an ice rink chiller system and acceptance of the public improvements. Mike?
We do not have a slide on this one.
Okay.
No slide.
Okay. All righty. I guess I'm flying solo tonight, so, okay.
We've got
No.
Bob Veenstra, or
Yeah.
Bob Zylstra, I mean.
Yeah, no. This is a great project, but this is, if council recalls, we approved an agreement with Spirit of Pella for the installation of a chiller system for Caldwell Park. This is a great amenity for the community, and I want to emphasize the project that we're talking about with the ice rink chiller actually was entirely fundraised privately with it as well. Now, our staff did assist with the installation on it, and we have supplied the operational support of it, but it's a great project for the community. What we have here with this First Amendment on here is the chiller system's been installed, but there are other components with the agreement that were required to be installed. So what this First Amendment does is it accepts the chiller system that we have for Caldwell Park and the ice rink for Caldwell Park with it. It also specifies that is of the other items are constructed, namely the shed or the maintenance shed at Caldwell Park, we'll accept those separately with it as well. So once again, this amendment was actually drafted by legal counsel, and we are recommending approval this evening, Mr. Hopkins.
All right, thanks, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved. Oops, I'll second it.
Van Strylen, Branderhorst, discussion.
Thank you. What a great addition to our community. We have
It's
a
a
whole
lot of
new
youth.
generation of hockey players. Very wonderful.
Lynn, I expect you to be out there in your figure skates doing your pirouette.
I'm working towards it, Bob.
All got goals. Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Branderhorst.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Vanstra.
Yes.
Motion passed. Okay, ordinance number 1088, entitled an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Pella, Iowa by amending the boundaries of the R3 district to include the property generally located at 1114 Peace Street and directing the zoning administrator to note the ordinance number and date of this change on the official zoning map. This is the third reading. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Hopkins, I'll go ahead and be happy to explain this item. Is Councilmember Hopkins has stated what we have as a request this evening from Central College to rezone a property at 1114 P Street, and the request this evening is from institutional zoning over to R3, which is commonly referred to as multifamily residential. Just to orientate everyone where we're at, P Street is located right here to the south. We have West 4th Street that's located right over here. The property that we're talking about is this diagonal highlighted area right here. Now, it's important to note, as far as the purpose of this rezoning, is just to recognize how this property's been traditionally used through the years. It's been used as multifamily residential. In fact, there's an existing fiveplex that currently sits on the property, which we have a picture of right here. So basically, all we're doing is adjusting the zoning to how the property's actually been used for the last several years. So let's go ahead, please, Mandy. Now, as far as the current zoning map, as well as the future use land map, overall, we did not recognize or spot any, literally spot zoning or any issues with the rezoning request as well. When you look at this property, particularly the zoning code, it's surrounded by R2, which is two-family residential. Or when you look at the land use compatibility matrix in the city's comprehensive plan, R2 and R3 are very compatible from a land use perspective. So with this, it's important to note that the Planning and Zoning Commission actually reviewed this request and approved this request at their April 27th meeting. The staff is recommending approval this evening.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support.
Vanstra, Van Stryland. Discussion. Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Vanstra.
Yes.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Branderhorst.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes. Motion passed. Can I get a motion for approval to adopt ordinance number 1088?
So moved.
Support.
Vanstra, Branderhorst, discussion? All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, call the roll.
Vanstra.
Yes.
Branderhorst.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Motion passed. Okay, moving on to ordinance number 1089, entitled an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Pella, Iowa by amending the boundaries of the R3 district to include the property generally located at 406 West 4th Street and directing the zoning administrator to note the ordinance number and date of this change on the official zoning map. This is the third reading. Mike, this sounds eerily similar.
Yes, council member, this is a very similar request to what we just had to Central College. Well, the only difference is this one, it comes to us from Mr. Mark Vandernoy, and it applies to 406 West 4th Street, so it's a neighboring and abutting property. And it's this diagonal shaded area that we have up here. West 4th Street's here, P Street is over here. This request is actually to change the zoning from R2 to R3. R2 is two-family, R3 is multifamily. And it's simply to recognize how the property's been used for the last several years. In fact, we have a picture of the property right here. The building that's on it, it's an eightplex, that's multifamily zoning. So let's go ahead, please, Mandy. Very similar as far as the land use compatibility matrix. R2 and R3 rank very highly together from a land use compatibility, so we don't see really any issues with that as well. And like the Central College request, the Planning and Zoning Commission actually reviewed this request at their April 27th meeting and approved the request, and we are recommending approval this evening.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support.
Van Strylen, Vanstra, discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Vanstra.
Yes.
Rainbow-Horst.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes. Motion passed.
Move to adopt.
Support.
Got a move to adopt from Van Strylen and Vanstra. Discussion? All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Vanstra.
Yes.
Rainbow-Horst.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Motion passed, yes. Motion for approval of abstract of bills number 2201.
Move to approve and issue warrants.
Support.
Branderhorst, Van Strylen, discussion? All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Rainbow-Horst.
Yes.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Vanstra.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes, can pay the bills. Okay, other business, public forum. Do any council members have any other business that needs to be addressed?
Yes, I have one. I had a late afternoon email from Matt Hutchinson about his insurance claim on the road, to get the road repaired there. Have you heard anything? He says he hasn't heard anything.
As far as, for Mr. Hutchinson, he submitted a claim to the city of, this is repair for a private service line. Because of the claim, we turned it into our insurance carrier, but generally speaking, when you talk about private sanitary sewer lines on it, it's the responsibility of the property owner. Because of that allegation with the road may have played an issue, and then according to the claim, we turned it into our insurance carrier for review, and it was our understanding the carrier is going to be responding directly to Mr. Hutchinson.
Okay, I'll let him know. I'll tell him that.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else?
Just a comment, nice to see the flowers planted on Main Street today. I think, is that the last of the plantings?
I think so. Public Works was out there too with us knocking it out, so.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Okay, do any members of the public have any other business that needs to be addressed? If so, please step forward to the microphone, state your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Seeing none, we will adjourn to policy and planning. Got a handful of things to discuss here, Mike?
Yes, Councilmember Hopkins. The first item that we have is the proposed economic development policy for the City of Pella. And before we get into the details of the policy, what I would simply state is for most of this policy, it simply documents the way we've operated for several years on it. We do have an economic development policy that was adopted several years ago. This policy that we're going to go over this evening actually documents how we've operated for the last several years, but we are proposing a new item here that I'll cover very shortly. But when we look at the policy, the thought is by adopting a policy with council as development requests come in. Earlier this evening, we talked about the Central College or the Imagine More proposed urban renewal area. That's the first step in the economic development process, is the planning portion of the economic development plan. But when the rubber hits the road is when you consider development agreements, and those are usually associated with urban renewal plans. And what this policy is it simply documents is what types of projects the city is interested in awarding economic development incentives towards, and the process that we would go through in considering economic development incentives for projects on this as well. So, and again, a big portion of this is simply to document, being transparent on this as well, and then also establish prioritization of the projects that we would look to incentivize that would be associated with urban renewal areas on this as well. So, and that's basically what we set up here on this as far as the policy and the purpose of the policy. So let's go ahead, Mandy. When we talk about overall the policy, everything it's important to keep in mind with both the policy, and we also included the application where developers would actually make an application to the City of Pella, just to give the council the sense of the information that we've traditionally asked developers to provide. This will be all formalized through our policy as well. But one of the key things to keep in mind is the public purpose for these projects, and that's what this policy is really emphasized throughout. with it is we keep in mind, regardless if it's an economic development project or not, everything has to have a public purpose when you deal with the City of Pella on that as well. So what we're hoping to do is be able to document that. We've also basically broken the policy into two parts. Projects that we would consider using for urban renewal areas as opposed to urban revitalization areas. And the big difference between these two areas is when we look at urban renewal areas, that's what we've traditionally done in the past. For residential projects, we typically reimburse developers for the cost of public infrastructure on that, and that's still allowed under this policy. But we've also incentivized both commercial and industrial projects as well, and so that's basically what's stated that how we've traditionally used what's called urban renewal or TIF projects in the past. Urban revitalization would be new to the City of Pella, and the reason why we've included urban revitalization areas is when we look at certain areas of our community, the council's actually appointed an area, the Heber Street area that we're currently looking at as a part of the Neighborhood Revitalization Grant Committee area. One of the things that other cities have done to improve residential neighborhoods is they've used tax abatement in those areas. And what the goal of tax abatement would be is to try to recruit and incentivize people to make investments in those areas on it. So what this policy states is the type of projects where we would consider tax abatement or urban revitalization as well, and gives the guidelines for those as well. Another key component with the urban revitalization areas is if you wanted to break them down into kind of categories, I really envision bigger developments, larger projects being urban renewal projects as they traditionally have been for the City of Pella. But when you look at those smaller residential neighborhoods that we're looking and we're taking undergoing strategies to improve those neighborhoods, and you start talking about potential tax abatement for improvements to structures or new developments within those areas, those are smaller projects, and the beauty about that is you can identify an area. For those improvements or investments in those areas, you can set a schedule where there would be tax abatement for those areas for a certain period of time was approved by the City Council. The great thing is those projects don't require a development agreement as well to happen organically. So there's very low administrative time spent on urban revitalization areas once they're established. But what the policy simply states is the policies and the programs that we would consider for urban revitalization areas as well. Now, one of the areas that I want to go through with council, because this would be somewhat new for the city, is our process. So let's assume that we have an urban renewal area that's been approved by the City Council. We have a developer that's interested in doing a project within that urban renewal, and they believe that incentives are necessary for that project to proceed. Here's our process that we would have is, and this has all been standard what we've done in the past, we'd have a pre-application discussions with city staff. At that time, we'd go over the policy that we have for the city's economic development incentives, which is what we're considering council would ultimately approve. We'd also hand off the formal application. The application asks all sorts of information on that as well. Staff would compile all that information and supporting documentation. And here's where a little bit of the difference, and we've done this informally through the years. But we're asking council, we think really it'd be really good from a transparency standpoint to establish an economic development review committee. And we envision this committee to be a subcommittee of the City Council, so when they meet, they'd be subject to public meeting laws as well, it would be open to the public. And we would review development applications, and we'd review the information that city staff has compiled. And ultimately what this committee would be responsible for is making a recommendation to the full City Council on it. So when the City Council has a development agreement that it's considering, we'd go through the subcommittee of the City Council. That committee would make the recommendation to the City Council, and at that point in time, after that occurs, then we have consideration by the full City Council as well. So again, what this process has done is about 95% of it is simply documenting how we've traditionally operated through the years on this, including the information off the application. But I think by having a formal application, formal policy rather, and application, we're hoping to assist in greater transparency. And then two, I think it's really important as we look at the stage of our community. Our community is growing. We have lots of development going on in the community. And I think it'd be a great step to have that subcommittee on there too, and give us a chance to be able to present ideas to a subcommittee before it's considered to the full city, the City Council as well. So that would be the one new aspect of what we traditionally haven't done in the past is this Economic Development Review Committee. So Mandy, do we have additional slides on this item?
One more.
Okay. I think we've stated a lot of this again, but ultimately what we're trying to do is it's important to realize there has to be a public benefit to these economic development projects. And if you go through the application that was included in the packet, what you'll quickly see is the type of information that we're asking for as far as project budgets, pro formas for projects, but it also has to be not only the case that there's a public benefit, but when you look at the project on there as well, one of the key items is if the development project's gonna occur anyway, that's a key item on whether you should even be awarding economic development incentives, and that's part of the due diligence process that we're going to undergo. The only difference is with our process that we're requesting is one additional step, which we don't think will slow down development, but we think will assist in transparency efforts with it, is establishing a subcommittee of the council for it as an economic development review committee. So that's the one new item that we have with this. And so with that, Councilmember Hopkins, before these items are presented for formal approval, we're looking for any comments or concerns or answer any questions that council may have on the policy.
Councilmember Carlstrom has joined, so he is on the phone.
Okay. Any thoughts?
I love everything about this, and I think the subcommittee is so necessary. I just know from serving on the NRG committee and getting input from that subcommittee, and each one of them has a certain area of expertise. I see that the committee functions very effectively, and they're also a wonderful, or will be a wonderful conduit to the council. They're gonna teach us what we need to know about the project. I loved everything about this.
So the subcommittee review, the development review committee, is that only of council members on that? Because I would almost think doing that with staff, because staff is gonna be stuck repeating that, everything you've already learned. You know, is there any way that can be combined, rather than, I think there's gonna be some duplication on staff's part on this too, I would imagine.
Yeah, but I would state is it's up to council for the committee who you'd like to appoint. We recommended at least 2 elected officials on the committee as well. As far as the duplication, what we really anticipate is I tried to consider we need to keep the process moving. A lot of developers' time is money with them as well, so we'll accelerate this process as much as possible. But from the duplication standpoint, everything that we have in the application, and even with the review committee, when it goes to council, staff has to make sure you got all those questions answered anyway. And so, it'll be an extra step for us presenting it then on to city council, but we review, from our standpoint, all this stuff is done internally anyway. And I didn't think it was be a significant step, just having the review committee as well. So, but we would imagine from a membership, rather than like a 5 to 7 member board, we would prefer to keep it relatively small. That's why we stated 2 elected officials potentially. That way for ease of scheduling meetings and to make sure that we're timely and responsive to developer requests as well.
And it sounds like, other than that committee, this has been done as a practice rather than stated in a formal manner as we are now in a policy, if I'm understanding this right.
That is correct.
Okay.
Under this benefits of adoption, it says improve transparency and public understanding of incentive decisions. I think we need to, I would like to see more information out as to why the TIF is a good deal for the city, and especially in view of the fact that Des Moines has stopped doing TIFs. And I think we need to itemize the cost of operating a new development. Will say if we build another Fountain Hills addition or up here in Hazel, what is the cost? What cost is the city bearing that they're not getting paid? We're not collecting money to pay for, that we have to pay for it. We're still paying for it out of other revenues. Do you see what I mean? That'd be part of what the committee would be doing, I think, or somebody connected to the committee, is to get a better understanding of why we're giving somebody an incentive.
That's the Councilmember Butler, I think those are excellent points, and that's the purpose of the committee, to make sure. And if you wanted to look at our process, I view everything in the application that we've asked for, and there's quite a bit of information that developers ultimately end up turning over to the City of Pella. Almost all that information has been done on projects in the past, and these decisions have been made internally and on it as well. But with the committee, and we talked about transparency, I anticipate those types of questions are gonna come up during committee discussions and ultimately the recommendation from the committee to the council. And those are key items on why is it even necessary to have incentives for development? What is the operating cost of the proposed developments to the City of Pella? Those are excellent points that need to be addressed through the development process. So, again, we view by going to the committee step that this is additional transparency on it before it comes up to council for consideration.
I'm glad to hear you've gone through some of that already, so you kind of know the framework on getting it back to us. But it would be helpful, for me at least, to see that.
And I agree with John, and I think also, and this gets a little more fuzzy, what are the benefits? You know, in addition to the cost, you know, okay, are we adding more bodies to the school district? You know, if we're providing more homes, or if we're short on senior housing, this is providing that.
Right.
You know, and those are a little bit more difficult to measure than the costs, I think, at times, on that, but at least they can be stated along with the actual, okay, we've got X number of miles of street we have to plow now. You know, what is the cost of that versus the benefit?
In the maintenance budget on those streets.
Mhm.
Could be 15 years, or now 20, what is it, 23 years?
That is correct, yes.
Before we start getting money, so that's long. Streets 2/3 worn out, or half worn out. Time we get it.
What you need?
I believe so.
Okay. Let's move on to the next.
Okay. Very similar, what we have here is planning for the future for urban renewal areas. And if you recall, we talked about the Imagine More proposed urban renewal area, and we also said that these are planning documents. They're long-term in nature, over 20 years for the planning period of time, typically include lots of projects. The issues that we have in the City of Pella is most of our urban renewal areas have expired or will be expiring in the next few years. And one of the things that I believe that's allowed the City of Pella to be very, I'd say, fiscally healthy and be able to perform a lot of public improvement projects is our TIF policy. So this doesn't get a lot of discussion, but it's a very important, I would tell you, it's one of the most important planning items that we could consider. And what we're proposing this evening for urban renewal areas for the City of Pella, we're proposing 3 additional urban renewal areas that would be considered by the City Council. I would state from a matter of past practice and what we've done over the years, it closely matches the strategies that we've done for the last 20 years that's allowed us to be successful. In other words, what we've done is we've looked at our commercial and industrial areas and we've made sure that those were in TIF districts. And then we've also looked at the major corridors, and we've looked at, as far as financing those corridors, we've looked at capturing incremental valuations from those commercial and industrial areas and financing public improvements through them as well. And we've been very successful over the years as far as the financing of public improvements and also incentivizing businesses to invest in Pella as well. That is the same strategy what we're proposing this evening. And so, Mandy, let's go ahead, please. Probably the easiest way to explain this on here, if we could just show the map and then we'll dive in and let people ask questions on it. Rather than going through each of these areas, if you were to look at this map, the purple area is the west side TIF district. That's an existing TIF district that we currently have inside the community. The green area is the Lely TIF district. That's an existing area. The areas that you see in yellow, in pink, and in purple are new areas that we have. But if I were to show you a map of what we did back in 2004, this would look somewhat similar. It's not exactly the same plan on it, but the areas on it, but the same concept holds, is that we linked all of our TIF districts together. We made sure that we had commercial and industrial properties within those TIF districts, and we financed a large amount of public improvements. We are also very successful as far as economic development projects within those areas as well. And so that's the basic strategy that we would be following with this. Now, as far as these new TIF districts are concerned, we do have some issues, not issues, I would say some time-sensitive issues with these 3 new TIF districts that we have, and that's the reason why we're looking for comments, concerns, questions tonight before we start the process. Under the new state legislation that was recently passed by the state of Iowa for urban renewal areas that are approved after December 31st of this year, those TIF districts could have a decrease in funding by upwards of 20% on it as well. So when we look at TIF districts and we look at the future of Pella and the importance of commercial industrial growth in our TIF districts, I would also argue, and it doesn't get talked about a lot in economic development, but the truth is, unless you have public infrastructure, these developments don't occur, period, on it. Unless you're able to maintain that public infrastructure, you're not going to have additional commercial and industrial development. So there's a close linkage between public infrastructure and commercial and industrial development that we have here. But if you just looked at some of our corridors, and these are going to be future projects for the City of Pella sometime over the next 20 years, some of them much sooner than this. We have the Washington Street corridor. In fact, we're just in the process, hopefully early July or at our next meeting, we'll be talking about a traffic analysis on Washington Street and the future at the service level of Washington Street, the corridor that comes into town, and whether that should be converted over to a 3-lane road on that as well. We've all talked about the central business district and the need at some point in time, there's going to be a need to go down and actually replace the streets in the central business district. That's tentatively scheduled for 2030 on this as well. Into July of this year, we're also going to be talking about stormwater improvements. Those are closely associated with street improvements as well. And those are throughout the community, but when you look at stormwater improvements, they'll be needed down in the central business district on Main Street that we have down here. When you look at the area south of the central business district on Main Street, that street's just as important as the central business district and will likely need to be redone as a part of the central business district, particularly for the stormwater improvements. And then we get out east of town. Tonight we're going to be talking about a proposed project that's scheduled to take place, and I guess that's already in a TIF district, on East Oskaloosa, Old Highway 163 out here. A better example of an improvement that will need to occur sometime in the next 20 years is Vermeer Road on this as well. So what we're looking at, the overall strategy is what we followed in the past, is we've grouped our TIF districts together, and we've been able then to leverage those improvements and do a lot of public improvements, as well as, and what I would maintain with new property tax legislation, when you look at economic development incentives, particularly for commercial and industrial projects, if something does occur, which we anticipate it will, they'll likely may need incentives, and this will allow us to pool our resources together so we can invest in those good projects that will yield returns for the City of Pella. So in practice, this isn't anything different than what we've done in the last 20 years. It's been very successful for the City of Pella. It just has a little different new form to it as well. And the reason for that is once these TIF districts expire, it can't be exactly the same as what we've done in the past as well. So again, I would look at this, particularly on these corridors. There's going to need to be improvements on these corridors. These corridors are important. They're actually necessary if you're going to have additional commercial and industrial development in the community as well. And so from this strategy, if you wanted to look at it, we're trying to get all of our commercial and industrial properties, place them in a TIF district, be able to capture those incremental values to be able to fund public improvements, and then also invest in those commercial and industrial projects that will yield returns for the City of Pella. So that's the proposal this evening. The 3 new areas are yellow, which includes the Central Business District, West Washington Street corridor, including the Walmart commercial area, southern end of Pella, the Oskaloosa Street corridor, Clark Street that we have down here, and also Roosevelt Road, the extension of Roosevelt Road at some point in the future. And then on the eastern side of the community, we have Vermeer Corporation along with Vermeer Road, and those are the 3 areas. But again, this is somewhat time sensitive on here, and we have this with new state law changes in particular that may impact revenue from these TIF districts for urban renewal plans that are passed after December 31st. So if council, whatever comments that we get tonight, we go on to work on these areas, our goal is to get these urban renewal plans done by December 31st of this year. So Councilmember Hopkins, we are looking for direction from the City Council in these 3 proposed areas.
Thoughts, comments?
I don't want to add more work. One of the things, because didn't we just do an amendment to the Lely one? There's a lot of gaps, when you look there, surrounding that. Is now the time to fill in the gaps, just to have that available for that? I think Spencer even had mentioned that, whether we weren't aggressive enough on that time with that. And maybe your thoughts are different, maybe that's too much, but I just see 20 years from now, that could all look different.
There's a big hole in the middle of
Yes,
the
with the
Pella
road,
development.
it's being
Yeah.
bounded by the
Yep.
roads already.
Yeah, the difficulty, and, if we looked at the lately, I agree with you. What's tough on these urban renewal areas is, let's take a look at with the rec center. We anticipate there's gonna be additional development out there,
Right.
the rec center, University Street. What we don't know is the breakdown of, is that gonna be additional commercial, or is it gonna be residential? And keep in mind, under Iowa law, residential districts are treated different, urban renewal areas are treated different than commercial and industrial, so we've tried to segregate the two on it as well. So we're open to suggestions on these areas if we want to include them on here, but, part of the reason why we haven't gotten some of these bare farm ground out here as well is just because they may be either residential or commercial and industrial.
And what's I guess the consequences if we pick commercial and then 15 years down the road, it turns out housing is the better choice for that? Can
Mhm.
that be changed at that time? Is there possibilities? And the only reason I say that is it better to get it in with our best thoughts right now before the end of the year, and then we'll have to see what happens, in the next long period of time.
Yeah, that's one school of thought on it. I mean, that's what we're here for. So if we want to include some additional areas on here as well, if we're wrong and say some of these areas that we've included as a commercial development and they turn out to be residential, what we'll have to do is we'll have to amend the urban renewal area, form a new urban renewal area for a residential district. So again, typically these urban renewal plans are somewhere between $5,000 to $9,000 to set up, and the amendments are somewhere between $3,000 to $5,000. So relatively speaking, on an $80 million city budget, it's not a big deal, but it's just trying not to.
No, and I agree with that, but because if you create a new one after at the end of the year, you're going to have that same cost but lose the tax benefit.
Sure.
Lose that
If we
20%.
happen to guess right now and pick the right commercial or housing, whichever we think is the most logical that's going to happen, that benefit will stay with us through that time.
Yeah, that's a good school of thought. So if there's suggestions for additional areas to include, we'd be happy to consider those. So, but again, we prefer our best guess on commercial and industrial. So I think it's a very good comment. It's very appropriate at this time.
And you have your crystal ball back in the office now, what's going to happen?
So could we approve as seen tonight with the caveat that we could modify it
before we
prior
vote on
to
it?
December 31st, just so we're moving this project forward and getting it done, because, urban renewal works, and we need to continue to look at this and keep this in front of us in the windshield. And in my mind, not delay it if we can amend it later
Yeah.
without a problem.
Yeah.
That would be my suggestion, would be to approve this, revisit this
Maybe even before we put it
into a resolution.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Have some discussion along the way.
Yeah, but we're certainly open to that. So if there's additional areas that we wanted to consider, you don't have to tell me tonight, but what we could do is we envisioned in our schedule, typically, I would tell you it takes about 90 to 120 days to finalize an urban renewal plan. So we've got a little bit of time. That's why we're starting now. We have 6 months to get this right. So if we have to schedule another session for these areas, we have some time that we can schedule some additional policy and planning. So
Sure.
if you'd like, we could get working with legal counsel, because there's a lot of logistics that we have to, and start our work, and we could schedule another policy and planning session probably for early July. And if there's some comments or some additional areas that we don't have listed up here that we'd like to have in here, we can certainly.
Yeah, I guess the Lely one jumps out to me the most right now, but there could be others other folks have thoughts on that might be areas.
And that, if we took in that additional triangle there between 163 and Oskaloosa, that's not all in the city limits, does that matter?
Yeah, that's probably another good point under the time sensitivity on this. Everything I believe that we have up there as far as the new areas are entirely inside the city of Pella. If we go, and we've been very successful with the Marion County supervisors, if we have some of these properties, and as Councilmember Butler said, I don't have the city map up here, the boundary. Some of these areas south of Old Highway 163 are in rural Marion County on here as well.
Right.
So it's not a big deal, but we'd have to get the approval of the supervisors to do that.
But as if memory serves me correctly, that's why it looks like it does.
Mhm.
Because back when we were developing this area, it was the annexation
Mhm.
that was the problem, and we wanted to keep the project moving forward, as I had suggested with the existing map.
Mhm.
And so that's why it looks like that. I just don't see that amending it would be a problem.
We brought that in city limits.
Yes.
When it was, yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Well, we need to expand city limits anyway.
Yeah, that's another, all these comments are great.
I think that's
Urban
more than a
renewals.
90 to 120 day
Exactly.
plan.
I don't
Yeah.
think we'll get that done by the 31st
Yeah. Well,
of December.
Wish it was that quick of a process, we'd have a lot of issues solved.
Yeah.
So,
So the bottom line is we want to keep moving forward
Yes.
with this, and give Mike the go-ahead, the green light to keep moving forward so we don't miss out.
Okay.
And I would say if any of us have any suggestions, like John just had too, or which area to bring it forward
Yep.
to you so that if there's any preferences, but that'd be the one that I think of the most, the Laley one right now.
Okay, yeah, what I would ask is we'll get this scheduled again for July. If you have areas that you'd like us to include, you feel free, but we'll be working with legal counsel on trying to reconcile between what's currently and what's out and forming these new districts and starting on the legals on these as well, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Ann, do you have a comment?
I just have a question. How does this all play in to the new comprehensive study that is being developed?
Mhm. As far as the comprehensive plan, that's actually a very good point that we've tended to gloss over with it. But one of the key items before you can approve an urban renewal plan is the Planning and Zoning Commission has to review the urban renewal plans, and they make a recommendation whether it aligns with the city's comprehensive plan or not. So from our standpoint, what we've always done with the commercial and industrial areas, we've always made sure those align with the comprehensive plan. We're currently working with Confluence on our commercial and industrial areas to continue to ensure that alignment. But there's a separate process to address that very point. That's the Planning and Zoning Commission. They'll make a recommendation to the City Council. And when the City Council approves urban renewal plan, they'll also have to make a finding that it aligns with the city's comprehensive plan.
Seen a lot of redundancy between the two, this
Yeah.
and what we've been discussing
Yeah.
on that.
Very good question.
Okay.
Okay.
Got what you need?
Sure do. Okay, I'm actually, for this next one, Councilmember Hopkins, if council recalls, we are actually planning a reconstruction project on the eastern side of town. This would be the old Highway 163 segment, or commonly referred to as East Oskaloosa Street, literally east of East 16th Street, extending past the intersection of Pella Christian High. What we have this evening is proposed options for the intersection of Old Highway 163 and 240th Avenue that we'd like to talk about as we reconstruct that intersection. What's been contemplated is actually putting back a four-way stop, what we currently have, or potentially moving over to a roundabout. And so with that, we have Mr. Wilf Nixon, our Public Works Director, as well as Brad Udemark from Garden and Associates, and I'd like to go ahead and turn the floor over to both of them to walk the council through this item.
Surely. So, first of all, thank you for the chance to do this, and great that we have Brad here to handle any additional details. But as you know now, we've got a four-way stop control with no turn lanes. If you've gone through it lately, I believe there is a stop sign in the middle of the intersection right now. It needs help, let's put it that way. And Brad and his team have worked on a couple of options. And if we can go to the next one, I think, detailed traffic counts. Most of the traffic comes from the north or comes from the east, and it then all goes out to the west, or not all of it, but a large chunk. You can see the details there, so we know what we've got to provide in terms of throughput. And there are a number of ways you can handle this as we go on, so we can take a look at the next one. One would be a standard four-way intersection, but it does have some turn lanes. So if you're doing a right turn at the northbound or the southbound or the eastbound, there'll be a separate lane for you to go through and probably stop at the end of, but might be a yield. That's still up in the air, is that right, Brad?
Yeah, the right turn sweeps would most likely yield signs.
Yeah. Which would, and the nice thing here, lots of turning lanes, so it will make for a much more comfortable intersection for everyone going through it. An alternative is we go with a roundabout. This is, you've probably come across these. The reason why roundabouts are considered of interest is primarily safety. The nice thing about a roundabout is it reduces the sort of crashes that cause serious injuries. You won't get T-bone type actions. You tend to get, let's call them grazing hits. Still a hit, unfortunately, but it's much less traumatic than a T-bone type event. There are, of course, a number of concerns about this. You'll see in a minute, it takes rather more space. It's not necessarily easy for semis to get around that, but it's not particularly a semi-heavy route. It's mostly cars on this, although there are some trucks. And it does keep traffic flowing freely once everyone's got accustomed to it. And I want to stress that there is a learning period to this. Less of a learning period than other intersection designs. If you've ever gone through a diverging diamond, you will know some of what I'm talking about, but we're not doing that to you here. The nice thing about roundabouts is they are free-flowing. As I mentioned, they take more space, and that means they're a little bit more expensive as well. I think on the next one, you see the benefits. You reduce those conflict points. It does tend to be lower speeds. Now, that's an iffy assumption. It assumes that people aren't going to stop at a stop sign. Unfortunately, when we get crashes, it's often because people have not stopped at a stop sign, either because they didn't see them or they didn't think they applied to them, which is a feature of traffic occasionally. They are often put in near schools because they do provide benefits for pedestrian safety, and that's worth considering here because it's pretty close to Pella City. So we can address the issues or concerns that people often have with roundabouts, but it's also a more expensive geometry to consider. And I think the next slide, no, that's conflict diagram. Out of the Green Book, which is the engineering design manual. So there you go. The circles are conflicts. If we go on to the next, there are plenty of these around and about, if you'll pardon the pun. They are much more common than they were 30 years ago. That's not necessarily an argument that we should have one. It needs to be right for us here. And if we go on to another one, there's a three-legged roundabout. These work very well, and once you're used to them, they really are great. On the other hand, I'm biased. I grew up and learned to drive in England, and in England they put roundabouts pretty much everywhere. Even roundabouts have roundabouts. It's a little confusing. Here's another one. So they are increasingly common. And if we can go on, yeah, right by our middle school there, and again to the next one if we could. Oh, and we have, if you wish, a video about how you plow snow from them. That is one of the concerns, but I'm going to recommend we don't watch that. It's not terribly exciting, but if you would like to, it's there for you. So, and then I think we have some information on the costs. Yes, as I mentioned, roundabouts take a little more space, so we would need to get some right-of-way acquisition, about 2,200 square feet, and roundabouts tend to be a little bit more expensive. So it'd be 2.3 million rather than 2.05 million. Those are the basics. These are preliminary design. Did I miss anything out, Brad? Did we get all the details in there?
Yep, I think that covers it well.
Yep. So if you have any questions on this, we'd be delighted to answer them. What we're looking for is your input regarding which sort of intersection you would like to see.
I do have a comment. I've had a lot of feedback this week concerning this item and a lot of conversations with individuals that drive trucks for a living. And this is of great concern to them. And when I look at the traffic counts, and being a person that lives on Oskaloosa Street, so I know the truck traffic on Oskaloosa Street, and I look at the peak hours from 3 to 4 p.m., that's not when the trucks are moving. The trucks are moving in the mornings, and that's where I believe we need to understand that when you look at this and you see, well, there's only 2 trucks coming through this intersection, sure, because it's 3 and 4, and they're gonna avoid it. But if you took a study, believe me, because I hear it every morning at from 5 a.m. until noon, your truck count is going to be much, much higher. So I guess what I'm saying is, I think we need to really look at the truck count on this and look at it in the appropriate time frame, because I don't feel like this is showing me a clear picture, because the Vermeer trucks are going to start heading to this intersection very early, and they all turn to the west because that's where they like to then turn on Clark and hop onto the bypass. Because, I think that's an important piece, because our industry is what keeps our community moving, and I want to make sure that if we make an investment in something like this, that we're sensitive to that.
Absolutely, and it's good to know that concern coming from various truck drivers.
Yes.
One of the issues with roundabouts has been for semis in particular, getting around them. I think as part of the preliminary design, we've been talking about a raised island in the middle, which does mitigate that concern somewhat, but I do understand it doesn't, if people are worried about it, they're going to stay worried about it, even if I say, oh, but we've got a raised island.
Right, right.
And so what we are seeking to hear from you is, do you feel that it's more comfortable for people at this point in time to go with something a little more traditional? That's why we're asking.
Right, right, and I appreciate that.
I've seen a lot of difference in roundabouts in Iowa, but I've been through dozens of roundabouts in literally dozens of different countries. And in this country, I think we have a tradition of doing small roundabouts. They're not built like the ones in South Ottumwa where 34 and 65. That's a good roundabout. On the other hand, the one by the middle school the elementary school in Oskaloosa is probably the best example of an awful roundabout. And I've seen people curse that one all the time. And I think we also probably have some huge farm equipment that's going to be using that. So, as I said, having used a lot of good European roundabouts, I've seen some pretty awful US roundabouts. And so I guess I'm kind of leaning a little bit to lanes as opposed to roundabouts. I don't drive trucks anymore, and I never did drive articulated lorries or whatever you call them in the UK. I'm leaning to saving what was it, 0.2 million or whatever, and just skipping the traffic circle or the roundabout. Simply because I've seen some bad ones in the US, and I've seen some good ones. But like I say, that one by the elementary school in Oskaloosa, I don't know who designed that one, but if we put something like that in.
Well, they do tend to be traffic features that people either swear by or swear at. And we clearly don't want a traffic feature that people are going to swear at here.
Well, the good ones are fine.
Yeah.
But there's some pretty bad ones in this country.
What do we need, coming out of tonight, are we making a decision of what way to design this, or are we saying, give us more information? What's the desired outcome tonight?
I think I'm hearing a fairly clear sense that there's a discomfort with the notion of roundabout at this location for this sort of traffic that we're dealing with here. And if that's, again, if that's what you like, I have no problem with this. Either way, wouldn't matter if I did, frankly. But no, we want to get your input so that we come up with something that serves the city as well as we possibly can. And I'm hearing, maybe I'm inferring or imputing that you feel it may not be prudent to go with a roundabout at this point in time. Notwithstanding the fact that by not going with one, we'd save maybe $250,000, so, which is not to be sneezed at.
So the lane business, we would not need to buy any more land. That's probably the big part of the money.
Yeah, no land acquisition.
And the roundabout, to me, if you're gonna run a semi, and I've been through some small roundabouts, I can hardly get my car around. But I think you would need 2 lanes going around the roundabout, and as Harold says, those are big. We'd need more land than projected here. And I think we need to know more about traffic count, especially early morning count, to see how many trucks do roll through there. And, but I prefer the simpler one. The one they did picture that was interesting was at, where was that at? It was where I had the right turn, this 3-legged one, where the right turn, you could do a right turn without going through the traffic circle.
Yeah.
You would bypass it.
Yeah.
So there's some merit there, but again, a lot more land.
That's a large one.
Yeah, that's a big one, yeah, I see that, so.
And to Harold's point, I had forgotten about the farm equipment that goes through that
Yeah.
intersection. And if there's quite a number of that, and we probably wouldn't have caught that on the traffic study yet either. So.
That's not just a time of day thing, that's
Yeah,
a time of year.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes,
And-
yes.
But yes, that's an excellent point. And again, what I'm hearing is a more traditional four-way stop with the
turn lanes.
siphoning lanes, the
Yeah.
right turn lanes.
Yeah.
Looks like the way the council would be most comfortable with it.
What time of the year was this traffic count done?
The DOT data, if you go back to that was several different years. That's the most recent data they have available. The other counts we did would have been last fall on that 3 to 4 o'clock hour for peak
And then
time.
for a week? week or for a month, or how long?
I think we went out there just 2 different days,
Okay.
at the time when school and Vermeer and everything was kind of.
I guess that's what I was wondering, if school was in session then too.
School's in session, yeah. A lot of that Pella Christian high traffic actually goes west down Roosevelt. Seems
They
like.
just come out of the parking lot and just keep going.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. And I do think also, we think that once university is done, it'll probably actually take some traffic, at least in the short term, off of this intersection.
Yep.
Because your sports park people are gonna, I think, more of them will go down university than will come down and come up the old highway, just because of where people live in town.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, that's a good point.
So did you have strips down, or were you sitting there with clickers?
no, we had people out there watching.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Do you have accident history at that intersection?
DOT doesn't have any, they do, I mean, old, when it was still state highway, but it's not anymore, so they don't have accident information available recently there.
Des Moines recently put one in, I think it was in Clive, because they said they had 20,000 cars a day.
Yeah.
Which is why they justified a traffic circle.
Yeah, and yeah, honestly, we were asked to take a preliminary look at the traffic circle here, so we did. It would be fine to put one in, I think, for some reasons, but looking at the traffic counts don't require it. And of course, there's a cost savings there and no right of way needed. So I don't know that we can recommend that it's necessary by any means, so.
Okay.
This question is for both Brad and Wolf on it. If you look at that slide right there, if we look in the future, at this time, all the rec centers open that we have, there could be development at that industrial park there. Let's say it's fully built out here within the next 10 years. And then also there could be potential development at the northeastern portion of this intersection along with the high school on it. When you look at future traffic flows, is there any difference between what you have proposed there at the 4-way controlled stop versus a roundabout at that point? So it'd be the future potential traffic load of development occurring around out there.
Yeah, so if you look at that 4-way controlled stop, they say that should be sufficient up to a maximum of 1,200 vehicles per hour. And right now, if you look at that, at the time we ran those peak numbers, you had that all up, and that's from all directions, and you add that all up, and you're at about 550.
Yeah.
So you got a pretty good margin of growth available there.
So there's capacity with just redoing the intersection like the way we've had it. So.
Okay. So do we have kind of a consensus on the direction
Yes.
we want to turn?
Yes. No, I'm not.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
For this next item, I'd like to go ahead and turn the floor over to our Human Resources Director, Mandy Smith.
Thank you, Mike. We have been working really hard on the compensation study that you all approved a handful of months ago. We are at the step where we are ready to look to comparable entities to pull data from. And we made the decision we would like to come back to council to have you review that list of entities. We did not do this for those of you that were here for the last wage study. We decided among staff, and we didn't go to council for approval. It's really a preference item, and Mike and I talked, and we thought for transparency's sake, it would be good to bring this list in front of you and keep employees apprised of it as well. So to get you kind of up to speed on what has gotten us to this point is we went out to our department heads first and relied on their expertise of where do you look to recruit people from? Where are people being recruited from us to? And based on your expertise, what comparable entities should we use? So we took that data first. And then we went to our consultant and had our consultant weigh in, and she is great. She has a huge spreadsheet. I love spreadsheets, very in-depth. She looked at population, not only just population, but growth history to make sure that we get cities that are on the same growth as we are. having a golf course. There's a lot of different unique things that we have to look out to find comparables to. So the next slide is gonna show the comparables that we are recommending. The majority of what we have are cities and utilities, and you'll see a lot of them are located close to us. The ones that are further out, we look to for either services that they offer that are similar, or it was a department head recommendation for like services provided. And the further ones away, like when you look at Spencer, for example, it's services and growth and population size that's a comparable. We also are going to counties to look for their data, Marion and Mahaska. And then locally, the college and the school district, as well as for our unique entities, Mahaska Communications for telecom, and then Pella Cooperative Electric would be our best comparable locally that competes for electric employees. So this list has been reviewed by department heads. We started with department heads. We worked with our consultant. We went back to department heads. There were no concerns brought up for those. So at this point, we are seeking your approval of moving forward with this list. If we get the go-ahead, our consultant is going to start the data gathering process tomorrow. Any questions?
I just had one on the cities and utilities. There's just one other one listed, Indianola. Is that enough, or are you picking some utility positions up within the other ones?
Yes, and Waverly as well. Waverly has utilities. I kind of ran out of space there,
Oh, okay.
so I didn't include it on there, but they would be one as well.
And would that be enough for you think, for the comparisons?
That's what we are thinking. Mike, did you want to weigh in on that as well?
Yeah, it's, these are kind of it's tough on the utilities, particularly electric utilities and telecommunication utilities. It's tough to get those as well. So I thought when you look at both Waverly and Indianola, they'd be very good comparisons from the utility perspective. So again, it's not an easy task.
And our consultant does have access to purchase data from other sources, from private groups, Mid-American, for example. So she does have a few other resources out there. She's very well versed with Iowa. So I feel very confident in her ability to get the data that she needs. This first step, she'll go out and gather it, and then if she sees any holes, then we'll try to fill those in on an as-needed basis so that we make sure we get enough comparables that it's solid data.
So then, really all you need from us tonight is just simply, this looks like a good list, keep going.
Correct.
Gotcha.
This looks like a good list.
Does anybody have any thoughts about that?
You know, it
Okay.
looks like a good list.
Thank you.
Looks like a lot of data.
Okay. I believe we're on our last item for tonight, and basically, we talked earlier about change orders for the recreation center, and I think, and the establishment, and we mentioned our administrative committee that's currently chaired by Mr. Councilmember John Butler on it as well. What we're proposing is to have a similar committee for the community center as well. And we think the process has worked very well for the rec center. It's kept the rec center on budget with it. And then also too, it's probably kept the rec center on schedule, more importantly as well, by being able to process smaller change orders. With the community center, this suggestion came from Mr. Bob Beamstra on it as well. And so our recommendation is to form a separate administrative committee for the community center on this. The one key difference I would like to mention on this, I can't speak for Councilmember Butler, but I'm requesting for the membership on it to replace myself with our Community Services Director, Spencer Winston-Reed, on it as well. And Bob would actually be one of the members, and then we'd have an elected official that would chair the committee, similar to what we do with the rec center. So I believe what we're asking for up here is the same parameters, $20,000 and below, with a cumulative amount up to $100,000 to start with. So we're looking for council direction on this item.
John,
I
is
think
it
it's a
working
good
well?
idea, but when you ask me?
Is it working well at the rec center?
Yeah, it is, yeah. Yeah, we get right through it.
So sorry I cut you off.
But that's all right. So we need a volunteer to.
Yep.
Dave, were you on the committee for the council rep and for the
Yes.
design?
Yeah. Are you saying, are you volunteering me, Calvin?
No.
Is that what you're doing?
I second that.
Guilt tripping you into say, yes, I'm familiar with it, I'll do it.
Fine. So it sounds like we're in, at the minimum, we're good to do the same agreement.
Yep.
And if there's no other volunteers, then I'll volunteer for that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I make just one announcement? I think it's kind of, since you're talking about the community center, about the groundbreaking, it's already scheduled. Do you have that down? Okay.
Yes.
I think the public needs to know that's been scheduled and when it is.
Yeah, I think we all got emails letting us know about that,
I'm
yeah.
just saying, I don't know if the public knows, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spencer, is it, if you can, so please announce the date on it.
Yeah, so we're gonna be putting that in the paper here pretty quick, so, but yeah, Mary and I have been working on it, so, team has helped out with it as well, so we're working on it, we scheduled it like last week or so,
Yeah.
so it's, was it July, what was the date on it, Mary, remember?
10th.
July 10th at noon, so it's gonna start over here at the, facility, like for the official ribbon cutting, and then we're gonna have like an open house over there, at the, Memorial Building, so, yeah, it's gonna be great, so
Yeah.
you should all come to that too.
Yeah, it's very similar to the rec center as well. This is being really driven and organized by the Friends of the Community Center in conjunction on the project as well. So July 10th as far as the groundbreaking ceremony.
One more thing, I heard the mayor's in DC gonna talk tomorrow. Is that, why do I have to learn that from public radio? Why can't we be told that at least, so we can act like we know what's going on?
Yeah, as far as, I think the notice on that came out relatively late, it was my understanding. We found out that just shortly before the radio as well. So that was my impression, Mandy, on it.
Correct, yeah, it was pretty last minute that it was requested. I wanna say even over the weekend or Friday.
Don called me on Saturday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's Tuesday. I find out
Second
today.
round of UFC fighting that he's doing? That's what happened in DC now.
That's over.
It's on that same stage, I think.
I didn't know either, but.
No, I just saw it today.
No, it's duly noted, so when these happen in the future. Personally, I think it's great that the mayor is going to DC to represent the city of Pella. But in the future, when we become aware of stuff, we'll make sure we get that communication out. So we apologize for the oversight.
Okay.
Okay. I think the last thing that we have is there's several items that we have listed up there. I'm gonna highlight just a few of them. We anticipate in July, potentially, it could be as early as July 7th, talking about stormwater management improvements for the city of Pella. If you recall, Greenwood Consulting, that the principal on that is Bob Beanstra, recently did an analysis of the stormwater improvements. It's likely we're going to have that either on the 7th or the 21st. We also anticipate talking about the Heber Street not urban renewal area, Heber Street area, and strategies on improving that general area that we have as well. And then as far as the Pella Municipal Airport improvements, those could either be on the 7th or 21st. The Parks Master Plan will likely be either on July 21st or August 4th as well. And some of the other items are ongoing as well, but there's a lot of projects ongoing at the City of Pella. So if you have any questions on anything that's not on the list, we'll be more than happy to answer those as well.
Okay. All right, that's it for policy and planning. So do I have a motion to enter into closed session pursuant to Iowa Code, Chapter 21.51C, to discuss strategy with counsel in matters that are presently in litigation or where litigation is imminent, where its disclosure would be likely to prejudice or disadvantage the position of the governmental body in that litigation?
So moved.
Support.
Vanstra, Van Stryland. Discussion? All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Vanstra.
Yes.
Van Stryland.
Yes.
Randall.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.